Hello, everyone, and welcome to a 10-part series on how to be a great leader in this new and often challenging world of work that we operate in. In these sessions, I'll be sharing information on what employees are looking for in their leaders and what you can do as a leader to deliver on these expectations.
Workforce Excellence, involvedgroup.com.
The 10 things that I'll be covering in these sessions come from a survey of 350 millennials, which was conducted for my book, Build It, Rebel Playbook for Employee Engagement. And in the survey, we asked employees to state and prioritize the leadership traits that they respected and valued in leaders. And the results clearly show that what employees are looking for in a leader has changed dramatically over the last 10 to 20 years. And that if you want to be a successful leader, you need to understand and develop these new leadership traits. So in this session, I'll be focusing on the first of the 10 traits that employees highlighted for being a great leader, which is about how leaders need to own and live their company values. And I'll be answering 3 questions. What are company values? Why are company values important? And how can you as a leader own and live your company values? So let's start from the beginning by answering the question, what are company values? Now there's lots of definitions, but the easiest way to think of them are as a set of words, sentences, or paragraphs that state or suggest that the company has in some way decided that these are valuable, unique, and important to them and also to their workforce. One of my favorite quotes that also defines what values mean comes from Jim Collins and Jerry Porras in Built to Last. And what they say is that the organization's essential and enduring tenets are values that are a small set of timeless guiding principles that require no external justification. And they have that intrinsic value and are important to those that are inside the organization. I sort of like to think of it as your secret handbook that you give your employees to help them and the organization succeed. So why are these words, these sentences, these paragraphs, why are they so important? Well, I'd like to answer that in 4 ways, explaining how they define who you are, guide your decisions and your actions, fuel your workforce, and finally, drive employee engagement. So first, company values define who you are as a business, what you stand for, and also what you don't stand for, and what you are willing to fight for. It's really important because it tells your employees what you believe in and also how you expect them to behave. Next, values act as guidelines, guiding principles, or guideposts to your employees, helping them make those everyday operational and strategic decisions. Can't say that word, decisions, even when leaders such as yourself are not around for them to role model after. There's this great quote by Ken Blanchard and Gary Ridge that talks about this concept of guiding our decisions, saying that values are needed as principles that guide our behavior while we're scaling the mountain that we set to climb. And this is really, really important because we all have to scale mountains and we all have to climb in the work that we do every day. So the next reason is that values give your employees the energy and the passion to not only make decisions, but to get things done as they, going back to that quote, as they're scaling the mountain. And it's important on good days, but even more so on bad days, as it gives us the energy and that push that we need to overcome adversity and to get up that darn mountain. And finally, values are an integral part of employee engagement. And as studies have shown, engagement improves productivity, customer and employee retention, and profit, to name just a few of the many areas that can positively impact. So I've shown that values are not just meaningless words, but are important strategic tools to your company, which is why we want, or actually we need, our employees to embrace and to live them. I like to think of it this way. If your values are the plays that you've pulled together to win a game, and none of your employees are reading or using these, then you'll never win the game. Which is why, if your companies are ever going to win the game that they're playing, you need to, as leaders, first role model the values, showing employees exactly what they look like in action and leading by example. And it's not just me that thinks this, because as I mentioned at the beginning, owning and living the company's values was the very first thing that employees said that they expect from their leaders in the survey, which says loud and clear that they expect and they need you to role model and to live them. So let's look at some tips, some ways to help you owning and living the values. The first tip is to understand what your company values are. Now, this may seem very, very basic, but in a survey conducted by Gallup, they found that only 23% of employees even knew what their values were. So that means that 3 out of 4 employees have no idea what their values are. So if you are one of those 3 employees, as soon as you finish listening to me and before you do anything else, please, please, please find out what your values are, and just as important, find out what they mean. So once you know what your values are and what they mean at a high level, it's important to take it to that next level and understand what they mean to you, to your team, and to the business. For example, if you have a value of innovation or creativity, how does that translate into what you do and how you make decisions? This step is often missed or forgotten, which is why so many people probably don't know what their values are, because they've been left as meaningless words on a wall. So next, use your influence and your leadership abilities with your team and help them understand what your values mean and what they look like. Bring them together, your employees, and discuss the values with them. Have them share examples of how and when they've seen it in action and how they could live it in the future. By doing this, you're starting the process of owning them by showing your team that they're not just words, but that you believe in them and you think they're important enough to focus on and discuss as a team. And finally, it's time to put your role model hat on and live your values. And don't just put it on from time to time, but wear it in each and everything that you do. For example, if you're communicating or you're coaching your team, how are you doing it through your values? If you're making business or people decisions, how are you role modeling making these decisions through your values? You get the idea. Use your values as the lens and the filter in all of your actions. And then just as important, communicate how you've used them so that your employees can visibly see that connection. By doing this, you're living them in a very visible and meaningful way, helping your employees follow in your footsteps and climb your mountain fueled by your company values. So those are my 4 tips to help you move to owning and living your company values. Remember that, as I said at the start, your values are not just words, but they're strategic tools to help you, your team, and your company succeed. And also remember that as a leader, you need to be fully committed to owning them, or your employees will never embrace them, thinking that if you don't think that they're important enough to own, then why should they? So thank you for your time, and I hope you join my other sessions on how to be a great leader.